Wednesday, everyone. Um, I am sipping on Chardonnay tonight out of my little. I still haven't gotten a dang wine glass. Happy Wine Wednesday, Holly. I saw you cheersing, but I wanted to mention because of the fact that when I went to get my wine tonight, they had a little booth going on for this Bud Light seltzer, and I'm not a beer drinker, you guys, and this is actually wine in the glass, just so you know. But I thought it was cute, and I thought I'd mention. I mean, like if I was gonna drink beer, I would drink that. It's only there's no carbs in this Bud Light seltzer, and when people say seltzer to me, right? We're gonna get to seahorses in a second, I promise. But when people say seltzer to me, I think of like the 100-calorie vodka canned drinks, which are good. Nothing's wrong with them, but I don't like that after fizz. I get heartburn real easy, so that fizzy stuff just doesn't do it for me. And I was just really impressed with this Bud Light seltzer. There was no fizzy afterwards. I mean, it's beer, so you know,
Mhm.
but just thought I'd give it a shout out because they were giving out samples and I thought it was really good. So if you're a beer drinker, bring that to Wine Wednesday. Also, apologies, we were not here last week. I was extremely sick. Um, Flu A went through my house, and yeah, I see you, Zen Ginger. Yes, I feel much better, thank you. And you're drinking wild cherry Pepsi. Hey. Put it in a wine glass. Absolutely. Ray's here. Ray doesn't drink alcohol anymore. And again, guys, hey, I have my cup right here that says coffee count. I know it's hard to see. Coffee counts on Wine Wednesday, right? So, get you a coffee mug and we'll be going to town. Anyhow, I was ill last week, flew away. Everybody feels a lot better. I still have the sound, but that's that. And I was telling Holly before we went live, I get these really great ideas for Wine Wednesdays, for guests, for topics. I get these really great ideas for finishing the website and getting that information out there, kind of jumping on Dan's website's background or on its back, I guess, and really expanding it and really getting good information out there. And boy, I took management at my work and I'm just really overwhelmed. Okay. So I apologize that it doesn't seem like things are happening. Someday I will get all this stuff completed. And again, just a shout out if there's any of you young pups out there, even if like Holly was like, what about Zen Ginger? And I was like, Zen Ginger already helps us with the Wine Wednesday. I don't want to bug her. But if any of you young people are interested in helping with putting together articles. Like, even if you don't have the information, I can provide the information. I just need help putting it in the website or for finishing the website or, that kind of stuff. If you're into that, I'm just doing the shout out. I'm totally willing to bring people on board and help because it's just a lot for one person. All right. That being said, I'm always trying, guys. I really am. And we're here every week, except for last week, and to answer your questions and share. I really do honestly want to do more. It's just that finding the time to do it. So anyways, and tonight we do not have a topic, so if there's anything you want discussed, if you have any questions, seahorse or other related, um, feel free to ask and we will chit chat about them. Otherwise, we're just here to join in the community and have a good night and sip wine and chit chat. I have Ray and Holly with me. Holly is going to share some cute Christmas gifts that her seahorses received from Santa Claus with the hat over there. And let's see, I see Coro works. Illness is an excuse. I know, man. I know. You guys know I'm here every week, come hell or high water. But last week was just like I was laying on the floor. Like, I don't think I can get up and do this. It was really bad. Flu A can kick your tush. But I agree. It shouldn't, if I just had a little, I would still be here. And Terry's drinking crisp white tonight. Hey, I have found last wine conversation here, guys, but this is what I'm usually drinking when I talk to you guys. Barefoot Chardonnay, right? And I got the big
Mhm.
bottle. Don't judge me. It's the cheapest Chardonnay out there. And I just seriously like the way it tastes. It goes well with all my, seafood and, pasta dishes. And I don't know, it's like with Chardonnay, You've got the really low end ones that kind of taste good. You got the really high end ones that are amazing and smoother, and then anything in the middle is kind of crap, in my opinion, right?
Mm.
So I don't like the $10 or $15 bottles. I either go for the $7 bottle or the $30 bottle, right? So, anyways, nothing wrong with box wine if you like it, is my point. All right, now I'm going to stop rambling about that. Ray, anything new with you? Aside from you said it's going to be 32 years since you drank. Is
Yeah,
that
a
what you
few
were
more
saying?
days. It was Thursday night before Christmas in '91 when I quit.
Wow. And
It
did
was
you just get
bowling
done
night.
with it?
It was
Go ahead.
bowling night, and um, so I had more than I should have had to drink, and I just decided that was enough.
Hey, I need that day to come. I really do. I I enjoy my wine with my meals. I enjoy being with you guys and get a little tipsy to where I give away a little too much information. I like all that, but I'm getting a little up there in the years, and maybe it's time to, say
Well,
it's
you're only
enough. I don't
halfway
know.
to my age.
Well, but one of these days I'm going to be bringing apple juice, or coffee. Doesn't matter. Bring
Well, I
what you
never
want.
drink
This is
coffee.
see, I
Never
I'm a,
drink
I'm
coffee or tea. Can't stand it.
I love tea and I love coffee. Ray, you're just my
Same here.
complete opposite.
I
You don't
drink.
like it, Holly?
No, I said same here as you. No, I like coffee. I like tea. I like to drink, but I don't drink a whole lot like I did when I was younger. I mean, eventually you kind of outgrow it and lose interest in it, I think,
Sure.
partially. So, at least a lot of people do. So, and plus, I've been dieting lately and losing weight. So, I'm not drinking hardly at all anymore.
I was gonna say my sister-in-law. Okay, guys, I promise this is the last story, and then we're gonna dive into seahorses and talking about the channel. What we're supposed to be talking about. But I will just say that I talked to my sister-in-law. She just dropped all this weight. I went to see her at Thanksgiving, and I was like, "Oh my God, you look fabulous!" Right? And for those of you young pups in the audience, as you get older, it's harder to lose the pounds. And
Mhm.
I asked her what she did, and her I said, "Are you exercising?" She said, "Hell no, I'm not exercising." And she said the two things she did was intermittent fasting, like she
Mhm.
doesn't eat after 8 or whatever,
Mhm.
and she cut the drinks out. And
Mhm.
I know that. I really, really enjoy the pairing. That's my thing. I like to have
Mhm.
red wine with steak and, white wine with fish and blah, 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 blah. I really like the way it tastes and it accentuates it, but I don't like sit around and get drunk. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And if I cut that out, I bet you I drop weight like crazy. I mean, I admit it. I need to. I just got to get over the like of the pairing. You know what I mean? Wanted to
Mhm.
say hey to Fish Fam Links. Don't forget, guys, at Fish Fam Links, put that website up if you guys can. You can find links to all of the cool salty and watery channels, and it's really encompasses everything you could ever want in if you're into aquariums. So definitely check out Fish Fan Links. Scotty the fish freak said, "Who thinks Zen needs to get seahorses?" I do, I do. we're all
Yeah.
like me.
Oh, it
We
looks
can't
like
wait.
it is
Oh, and
February.
February. That's awesome. I cannot wait. Zen, I'm
That's
gonna
my
pull you in.
birthday time. Yay.
See,
Your
we'll
birth,
celebrate all
mine's the
sorts of stuff.
28th of
Yeah.
February.
Your birthday's February too, right? See,
February
that's
28th.
Yeah. And I'm the
that's the month.
18th.
I got a
And
brother-in-law on the 18th, my son on the 11th, and a niece on the 28th,
yes.
same as me.
Nice. My
February is a
brother's
big
So
the
month for my family.
25th. Lots of February people.
Zen, you picked the right month apparently,
Yeah.
and Scotty said, "Why so long? This has been going on for months now." Agree, but I actually want to point out the fact that I think it's really cool, Zen, that you not only took your time, made sure you were
Mhm.
ready, right? Because a lot of people are like, when I first started with seahorses, I was like, I want seahorses, let
Yeah.
me throw this tank together and let me just have seahorses, and then
Now I got him. What
that's
do I do?
exactly. And that's one of the reasons that people like Holly and I, and even Cheryl and Ray, have all of this experience and advice to share, is because of all the mistakes that we made, right? At least myself. I should just speak for me. But I think it's really cool. We are so excited for Zen to get seahorses and come in here and show us. But in the meantime, I think I really hats off for taking your time, coming to this channel and hanging out with us and asking questions. And I know that as soon as you get closer to it, you're going to jump in here. We talked before about maybe having a session where you jump in and ask every question as you're doing it, and we can help you or whatever. It'll be cool. I think it's good that you took your time and did your research and really waited until you could do it properly, because people like me struggled when I tried to throw it together. But Ray, did you always throw together tanks, or were you careful and planned and all that?
I better not say.
Probably a combination of the two, I think, for most of us.
I mean, like starting up my Barbary tank the last time there, they got here the same day I started the tank.
Yep.
Now, yep.
I will been there. And Scotty said, at this rate, Zen will be on a live stream before she gets seahorses. Well, hey, I hope Zen starts her own live stream, to be real. She does
Yeah.
such a fabulous job of running other people's.
Mhm.
But no, we're very excited for her to get seahorses. And again, I think it's
Can't
cool that
wait.
she took her time and waited. Yeah. But we are excited. And yeah, Ray, I'm in the same boat. I remember with I think with the CUDA and with the piebalds. But again, this is after you're talking about setting up your Barbary tank. You'd been keeping seahorses for a minute, right? I mean,
A little while, yeah.
it's always better to research, be prepared, and take your time and set up properly. No, everybody here has been through a circumstance where that wasn't possible and didn't happen. And there are always tricks, and that's what we say. If you're in that situation, you know, let me back up. It's better to take your time, research, plan, and be effective from the start. Prevention's what is the quote? Prevention's worth a penny
A
of a pound or
pound,
something. I can't remember.
pound of yeah, an ounce
A
of prevention is better than it worse. Where's that pound of
better than
cure?
a pound of cure or something.
Something
So
like that.
anyway, what we're trying to say is you're going to have a much easier, better time if you take your time and plan and set up properly, versus trying to fix a problem that is occurring because you threw it together, which we've all been
Better to
through.
be proactive than reactive.
That's a
There's
better
something
quote.
that should be brought up, though. Pardon me. um, with this advent of social media, we need to make sure that people that are getting into the hobby um, realize that there's a lot of people that are posting on these um, uh, message boards,
Pages.
and
Mhm.
they're well-meaning in that, but they lack a lot of experience. And so
Mhm.
while they're posting about what was successful for them, they don't realize that for most people, it wouldn't be that way.
Right.
So that when you're actually looking at postings on, say, Facebook or wherever your social
Mhm.
media is, go with people that have a lot of years of experience, if possible,
Mhm.
Sure.
because someone may have been successful for, say, 3 or 4 years
Mhm.
doing things the way they are, but um, either lucky in that
Mhm.
they got seahorses that were very tolerant to disease,
Sure.
um, a lot of things like that, but just plain luck in some cases. And
Mhm.
it does happen. So these people are well meaning telling you that they're successful this way, but unless they've been doing it for a long time with and multiple tanks, even maybe
Mhm.
multiple species, although that doesn't happen often anymore.
Yeah.
Um, you need to be careful of who you're accepting the information from.
Right.
But I
And
don't know how we can approach, how can we let people know that are new to this,
Mhm.
to the hobby, that this is a piece of advice worth looking at.
well, I think the way that we've gone about it so far, I remember Dan always used to say his trick was, or what he would tell people is, if you see a tank that's really amazing, first of all, get all the information, because I've seen a post where this tank looks like amazing and maybe it has things that we typically wouldn't put with seahorses, right?
Mhm.
And then you talk to the person and you figure out it's a 350-gallon tank. That's
Yeah.
why they're getting away with it, right? Or
Or
you
it's
see
been
this,
running a couple months or something.
that was the next point. I was getting there, but or you see a really beautiful tank with like NPS, and you're like, oh, that looks so fun. But if you talk to the person, you find out how much work they actually are, right? That's a whole other job in itself to try to keep NPS and seahorses. It's a beautiful combo, but man. Or you see a picture of my old macro tank and you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, and the macros must be doing all the work. And then you find out, oh hell no, I had to add a huge sump, an algae skimmer or scrubber. It wasn't as easy as it looked. It may have been for the first 6 months, but then no, not so much. So the way Dan has always said is, if you see someone actually ask them questions, and one of the questions would be, how long's the tank been up? How long have you been doing this? Get their background. And that doesn't mean say, oh, I'm not going to listen to you, right? But just take that in and understand that a lot of tanks can do really amazing for 6 months. And Dan always said, if they haven't been doing it a year, tell them you'll talk to them in a year, because that's kind of, once you get over a year, you absolutely can still have problems. But if it hasn't been at least a year, there's nothing to even talk about. Nothing wrong with people displaying their amazing tanks, right? That they just put up. I'm not saying that at all. I love seeing new Seahorse tanks. But you can sometimes tell when you see a picture and you realize that, okay, it's really small. There's too many seahorses. And it's not really my job to go and tell them this, and this. But Ray, I will say the other thing that we've done is, you're a part of most of the groups, and you're very good at saying when maybe somebody's approaching something incorrectly. And there's a way to do it without seeming too harsh. And I think you do a good job of it. So there's those of
Oh,
us out
people
there that
get
will.
quite upset at me, I'm afraid.
I mean, I get it, but
Like,
you're
there's a
what?
lot of well-meaning people out there putting out information that I disagree with. Now, I can't come out against everything that I disagree with, because in some cases, uh, like, there are many things that you can do in this hobby that I don't do, but
Right.
it still can work. Uh, but and there are people that I see making posts that I feel can be detrimental to people reading, and I've never found a way to um, say something against that post when that person is well-meaning, and I don't want to upset them, but I don't want the people reading it to take that advice and get themselves into trouble.
Right. I
I
mean,
just don't have that knack.
I get it, and I don't think there's a good answer aside from, Ray, you've still got your website up, so you're providing good information. You are in the groups trying to help people. There are so many different ways you can do things, and that's really part of the problem. Is there are still, in Seahorse Sources group, there are still the file section that gives the basics. Here's the easiest way to be successful with seahorses. Um,
Oh,
Things
hold
like
on a sec.
that. Yeah.
The main part of that file section has disappeared. You remember there
Oh
used to be
no.
a link to the master file?
Mhm.
That link to the master file is no longer there. So all the information that was on the master file is not available anymore.
I did not know that. I will reach out to Dan. And I actually literally have every single file from that group and other files of Dan's that he has provided to me. I just got to get the dang website done. And as I said, that's another key, is having good websites that aren't boards where people can't, say, I think this, I think that it's just the information. This is the basics that works. You can deviate and do your own thing, but here's the basics. And guys, I just need help completing it. If anybody out there wants to help, reach out to
I
me.
use that master file list quite a bit. Now I can't use it anymore. When someone is looking for some information, you
Right.
can't put everything down in just a post on a thread. So
Right.
if you can give them a link to something with some good information,
Yes.
then that helps a heck of a lot. Now I've lost a wealth of information that was on his master list.
Well, and Tammy Wise's website too. It's hard to keep up when people get out of the hobby or whatnot. I will reach out to Dan. I actually have Tammy's files too. I just need to get it put together, guys. So anybody who knows somebody who's good with websites, have them reach out to me. And in the meantime, I think the best we can do is do, Wine Wednesday, where we answer the questions. People can go back to previous one. The really important Wine Wednesdays where we're not just talking, where it was a guest, or where Dan actually came and put together a whole presentation to show the basics of seahorse keeping. Those are labeled, right? You can search for those and find those, based on topic. So when it was an important stream, you can always go back and watch that and share that with people. And I will reach out to Dan. That's the best I can do, is to reach out to him and find out about the master file. But okay, really quick. I know we want Holly to share her gifts, absolutely. But Terry's Tropical Tank said, I had to spend 12 days in the hospital recently, and my reef tank suffered greatly. My question is, do you all have emergency plans? That's a good question. And Ray, you said yours is what?
Mine's a neighbor that I can reach through a phone, and he has a key to the house. So even if I'm not able to get home unlock or anything like that, something really bad happens, then he can come in and look after the dogs. And well, now I don't have the seahorses, but before I explained to him some basics, and that would be enough to get the seahorses by. They would survive long enough time. And if it isn't long enough time, then it probably won't matter because I'm not going to be around.
Right. I mean, hopefully somebody would come in and rent, but I get it. If you're not,
Yeah.
Yeah. Holly, how about you? You got an emergency plan?
Well, my husband, if something happened to me, my husband built the tanks and everything. So, he wouldn't want to. He doesn't help me with them now, but he knows what I do. He knows how to do it. So in that case, we would be fine there. We are prepared for evacuation and stuff for fires here because that has happened here. I am able to evacuate the seahorses actually if I need to. But if something happened to my husband and myself, it would be tough because none of my friends or anybody wants anything to do really with the seahorses care and learn. It's too complicated for anybody I know personally. And we don't live in a community where people do saltwater really. So that would be tough.
I got to tell you, when I first
fly Kelly in.
I'll come. You fly me in,
Kelly.
That's the answer. You guys just all fly me in to wherever you live, and I'll do it. No,
you want to visit anyway.
That's true. But no, that's interesting. You said that when I went back to work after my kids and COVID and all that. And when people hear that you're keeping seahorses, they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. I want to get one for my house, blah, blah, blah. And then when you even start to explain.
When they see what you do.
Right.
Like,
no. Then they're like, wait, I can't just throw it in a tank and it's cute? No, not really. So you got to want to keep seahorses. It takes a certain person. As far as the emergency plan, I do have one more question for Holly, but I'll tell you mine real quick. So my significant other and my daughters are well-versed, well-trained. My daughters actually did a really cute Seahorse Whisperer Junior video. You guys can go watch it if you want. It's more of a family thing. Like, it's funny for me. It's not really a great video, but they tried to mimic teaching people how to set up a seahorse tank. So they're well versed. I made sure they all know everything, but they all also know that if they touch my tank, they're dead. Right? So nobody in my family is allowed to feed, clean, touch, none of it, because I'm just super worried about cross contamination, and like they wear lotions and stuff, and significant other always has the cologne. I don't know. I just overthink things, I guess. I'm a worrier. So I'm the only one who touches my tanks, but they're well versed. If I was in the hospital, they could handle it. Now, if something happened to my whole family, I also have it's actually a coworker that was interested enough not to keep them, right? She doesn't want the work of keeping them, but she takes care of my seahorses when I go on vacation. And Ashley, if you ever watch this, shout out to you because you're amazing. But she comes and, she doesn't stay here, but she'll come feed them every day, a couple times a day. And she would know the basics of care. She takes care of them for a week, say. So, I don't know if I was gone, what would happen to them. But I feel that my family knows how much they mean to me and would try to make sure they went to a good home or something if I was like forever gone. And they're probably happy to not have anything but enjoy. Right, right. I get it. I get it. But Holly, I wanted to ask you real quick,
Mhm.
because I'm lucky enough, like I'm in Indiana, we don't have hurricanes, we don't have
Mhm.
fires, we don't really have any of that. So another thing that I really think people should have in their emergency plan is a generator. And I didn't have one for the longest time because we just don't have those crises around here. But I still
Mhm.
think everyone should have one. So, what is your emergency evacuation plan? Like you said, you can evacuate the seahorses. What do you mean? Like in a
Yep.
bucket?
Got buckets, yep, bubblers, salt mix. I have stuff to make their water okay, to dechlorinate water. And yeah, testing kits, everything. I keep a tote packed. So we're
So
ready.
you've got salt mix, you've got
Mhm.
dechlorinator if you had to use tap water or whatever. You've got test kits to monitor your water, and
Mhm.
you've got what was the other thing you said? Oh, the bubblers. Do you mean battery powered or
Mhm.
so
Yep,
battery
and
powered bubblers?
electric, so I can plug in, once we're settled at someone's house or whatever, because I have been evacuated for a month before due to fire, and I did not have the seahorses yet, thank goodness, but we lost all the fish in the house other than our goldfish survived because
Wow.
we have
Yeah.
freshwater fish also. We had several tanks, and the goldfish survived, and the fire happened in November. It was crazy because it was the 8th of November. And on the day the fire started, it was hot like the day before. And the next day, because the smoke from the fire cut out the sun, it was 32 degrees. It
Oh
went
my,
from
how
80
scary.
to 32. It was crazy. It was an insane, crazy experience. And so, yeah, now I think about those things. So, yeah, if we had to evacuate, I would take the fish.
Yep. So I think if you live in an area like that, Holly's plan's
Mhm.
magnificent. I know Dan's done a lot. Like I said, search previous wine Wednesdays. He's talked a lot about hurricane response, and what he would do to ensure safety of his seahorses to the best of his ability. Would there be a hurricane? I mean, like if it flattens your house, they're probably going to be gone. But if you
Mhm.
can take them, like Holly's talking about, that's really cool. I mean, it makes me want to go put together a kit, even though I'll probably
Well,
never
at
need it in
least make
Indiana.
the effort, you know.
Yeah, I'll
And
try
I
to
mean,
do
once
a
we're out of here, I can buy salt from the pets, but I have enough to get by,
Holly.
for
You should take pictures of the bag and the products you have in the bag, and either do a TikTok yourself or send me the pictures, and I'll do one. Seahorse emergency kit. I think it's a good idea. It should be out there. But anyways, yeah, no, good things. And I just think the main answer to your question, Terry, is to have people that are informed enough to do it for a minute. 12 days is a long time. And I'm so sorry that you're having so much trouble with your reef tanks. And reef tanks are a whole different monster, right? Like with seahorses,
I
it's more
couldn't
about
do
making,
that. I
yeah,
couldn't evacuate a reef tank.
right, exactly. There's not probably an evacuation plan. And I mean, there actually is because I've had to move, I've had to change tanks. You
Mhm.
can do it. It's just
Yeah, but what?
detailed. And to ask someone else to do it, if you're the one that's in the hospital, that would be really kind of crazy and hard. So I'm just sorry to hear that you're going through this. But thanks for the question because it does help other people hear about emergency plans that might work. And
Mhm.
I think the real key is like with seahorses, the key is making sure people know about feeding, how important it is, how to feed, to rinse the foods, etc. Because chances are they could go a week and a half without a huge water change if the tank is big enough, like maybe not in the all-in-one, but if the tank's set up right, they could go that. It's not good. We don't want
And if
that,
they're
but they
cleaning up,
could.
see, that's the thing. My husband would probably not suck up the uneaten food. He hates that part.
Gotcha.
He wants to feed them and walk away. That's why he doesn't feed the seahorses anymore. He
Right?
used to feed them when I first got him. He used to help feed, but then when I'm like, well, you gotta clean up after you feed them, no more. That
Well,
was
and it
it
does.
for him.
It does. And in that case, I wonder, I mean, and I'm not trying to dive into a whole nother topic here, guys, but I just wonder because I've noticed that with
Mhm,
the all-in-one,
mhm,
because of the way I've got flow set up, I
mhm.
have to turn the flow off to feed. And we've discussed how they
Yeah.
don't like eating off the ground and blah,
Mhm,
blah, blah. And there's all these problems with that I'm still trying
mhm,
to work through. But when I don't really even honestly clean up much food anymore. If I
mhm.
see it, I'm gonna suck it up. But I already know because I have a sock right here and I have a sponge covering the UV on the other side of the all-in-one.
Mhm.
The flow is so high in the tank that food doesn't get trapped. I
Yeah,
guess it
it
could
goes
get still get trapped. It goes in the sock.
it
So I
goes
just
somewhere.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I'm able to just replace the sock and know
Mhm,
that the food's gone. But I get your point, Holly. In a bigger tank, you couldn't do that. You'd have
mhm.
to remove it and have somebody trained to remove the food. Um, yeah, it's hard. I'm just sorry that Terry that you were in the hospital for 12 days,
Yeah.
and also sorry that everything went wrong. But yeah, I think I think it does depend on the tank. What you're keeping
Mhm.
as to what's important to train someone to care for them. In the reef, yeah, that would be a whole different system for me. I don't think I ever went on vacation when I had the reef. So, anyways, hope
Yeah,
that
that's
somewhat
my
answered your
plan.
question. What?
Other thing to remember
Never go
too,
on vacation. I said, that's my
Get
plan.
sick. Never go on vacation. Right. What, Ray?
remember too that if somebody's doing something emergency wise, the seahorses, if you feed them just once a day, they'll
Right.
get by and survive a few weeks like that. So there's
Right.
less chance of polluting the water at that point. But the main
So do
thing
you
is
think? So do
don't
you
let
think
them
it's
go a bunch of days without anything because many seahorses will shut down if they go 4 days without.
And some won't. Holly and I have talked about that before. We've had seahorses that didn't eat for much longer than you would think was
Yeah.
possible. And in my case, the seahorse recovered. In Holly's case, the seahorse did not. But I mean, I'm saying don't freak out and think all is lost if they haven't eaten. But Ray's right. You don't want to go a bunch of days. And Ray, would you say that then if you were going on vacation and maybe you didn't trust the person that you were calling in to take care of them as much as you would like to, or if you're in an emergency situation where you end up in the hospital, would you tell your sea or sitter or significant other or whomever to just feed once a day to avoid the pollution problem?
I'd probably be saying twice a day if I'm going away on holidays. But
Okay.
on an emergency situation, say if I was in the hospital and not going to know how long I'm going to be in there, then I would say once a day. So that would buy me a little extra time if I ended up in the hospital longer.
Guy, sorry, I was responding to Zen Ginger. Sorry, guys. I was half listening. I really was, promise. But yeah, so you said 2 times a day and then 1 time a day if you're in the hospital. Was that the answer?
Yeah, 2 times a
Gotcha.
day if someone's looking after it while I'm going on holidays.
Gotcha. And yeah, then we were just talking emergency planning is what I was trying to type. So you know, you can always rewatch it later, but hopefully you'll not be in an emergency situation. All right, Holly, you want to start telling us about what you're going to show us? Because my daughter's calling, so I need just a second, and I'll be right back. Just tell us what you're going to show, and then if you want to start, start.
All right. So every year I give the seahorses Christmas presents. I do a stocking for them and they get some new decorations and things for their tank. So today I went to PetSmart, and PetSmart does a lot of cool, cute little decorations for aquariums for holidays. So I always check them out every year. And everything they do is like limited edition. So every year, what they have is different. So they've got decorations in there now that I got last year and the year before. But I went shopping today and found some cute stuff for them. So I'll show you guys what I found. So these are all little things that the seahorses enjoy. So first, I've got this snowflake thing. And right now, they have a couple hitches that are kind of shaped this way. They're like picture frame style. One's like a Santa face and one's reindeer antlers. And they seem to love these round things. They'll like hang on to them with their tail and poke their heads through. And they're really cute and fun to watch when they do that. So I got a couple of those, one for each tank. And then a cute little Santa figure. And yeah, all these things, they're perfect size. I found the seahorses like to hang on to little stuff like this.
Holly, do you think that that's because it's like not intimidating to them? Why do you think they like that size?
I think it's partly that, but I think also they're just comfortable. Like
Gotcha.
it's the right size for their tails, I think, in a lot of ways. And they seem to like things, yeah, that are about their size. And maybe it has to do with intimidation stuff. I don't know, because they have some big things that they like too. You know, like they like the ocean aquaria fake corals to hang on to. They like those, but their favorites seem to be this little stuff I've noticed.
Well,
And
the
so
reason I
here's
was,
a
oh,
little
sorry.
snowman.
And I was just gonna say real quick, the reason I was asking is because I had man-made rock made for my big 65-gallon seahorse tank, and it was
Mhm.
rock that was shaped into like a really cool aquascape, and the seahorses would go on the gorgonians and on the macros and stuff. They didn't like the big old rock. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah, they
interesting.
do. They like some little things to hitch on. And when I'm done, I'll look for it and I'll show you a video of I made of one of the seahorses enjoying one of his toys.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
there's a cute little reindeer.
And all of these are, how do you know they're saltwater safe, Holly?
They're in the aquarium section at PetSmart, and you can just read on the back. And it says on here, it says decor may discolor in salt water. I haven't really had much problem with that. I've noticed that some decorations do kind of fade over time, but it doesn't
Yep.
seem to be a really big deal. Here's a little Christmas tree.
Oh, they're gonna love that. The star is gonna be their favorite part.
And then, yeah. And then this was kind of a cool pack, and my seahorses are probably a little big for these things. I'm not sure if I'm going to give them to the seahorses or maybe I'll give them to the freshwater tank. But they've got this pack in a box of little decorations. And I think for like real little seahorses, like if you're raising like juveniles, they're not taped in here, so I don't want to tip it and have them find out. But look at this tiny candy cane and little
Aw.
starfish and ornaments, but they're all like about an inch or so. And I remember when my seahorses were maybe what, like 8 weeks old or 3 months or something, when they're still really little, that'd be perfect in a tank of those. And then
It,
this thing is a snow globe bubbler, and it's got fake snow in it that floats around, and that's got holes in the top where bubbles come out.
oh, cute. Oh, they'll, oh my gosh. Don't
And
you
I'm
think they'll
hoping they don't think it's shrimp.
say they're going to think it's food? They're going to sit
I'll
by
have
that
to
thing.
see. I think they'll
Oh,
be
God.
smart enough to figure it out, but we'll see. If they do, I'll have to not use it. So that
I
will
want one of those.
we'll see. We'll see. So I'm gonna look for my video real quick.
Okay, I'll
Just
make you
what I
small while you're
found
looking.
with the decorations, they like it when I trade stuff out for them. It's kind of a novelty. I trade stuff in and out of their tank, and the new stuff is always popular with them. They
Um,
like little stuff.
what can you hear, Zen Ginger? Does somebody got something playing in the background? I did get a copyright strike the other week because we had a video playing and it had music in it. Just wondered. Um,
No, my husband's watching a video game thing on
well,
TV.
we'll be all right. I'm
I
not going to
don't
worry
know if
about it. It's
anybody
all
can
right.
hear it.
Yeah. Let me know what you're hearing, Zen. But I'm not that worried about it. I'd rather have everybody here than not. So, and what was I going to ask you, Holly, about the snow globe? And
Yeah.
those little ornaments. You could even, like, if you're a person in your Seahorse tank that's using like the God, I can't think tonight. The Zen, you threw me off with the strike. The shower curtain rings. You could even somehow or use one of those suction cups with those ornaments. Like, I'm thinking about going and doing this now because I do notice too, the same as Holly said,
Yeah.
they like new stuff. They like for you to change up their tank now and then. When they have their favorites, they'll get mad if you move their favorite things, or if you take them away to clean, they'll pout. But in general, you add something new and they're on it. When I copied one of Holly's previous ideas and got that saloon door, my God, they fought over it. In my tank, they always go back to the Robert King char chamber, which Robert King has offered to come back and tell us what's new with that. I forgot to mention that. But sorry, I'm getting distracted. Anyways, my seahorses love that Robert King char chamber because the bubbles go up their little butts. And so I'm wondering if more bubbler type things like Holly's snow globe, I may try to see if I can find one. First, I'm very curious if they think it's food and just stare at it
Yeah,
all day.
that occurred to me when I was looking at it. So,
Yep. And I'm
I
just
don't know.
curious if I really want to see if they love the char chamber because like the water's clearer near it or if it's just the bubbles. Like, I'm really curious. So I'm going to have to add something bubbler to my
It's
tank.
funny. I cleaned the char chambers and replaced half of the char this week as part of their cleaning.
Yep.
And Sadie got really excited about the char chamber when I was done. Like, she's all, "Yay, you cleaned my char chamber." She was dancing with it and having fun. Okay, so I found this.
Okay. And after the video, Cora Works,
Got
I
it.
saw your
Stop it.
question. Hang on. Cora Works, I'm going to talk about your question and testing about ALK as soon as we're done watching Holly's video.
All right. So let me go back to where, and I turned off the sound because it's loud and it'll
Okay.
interfere. But there's a song on the original video too.
Yeah,
So.
we don't want to play those anyways. Go watch that
Oh,
on
it's
Holly's page if you want to
okay.
see
I
it.
mean, Facebook let me have it. Facebook did it for me, so I'm sure
You
it's
know,
okay.
I know, Holly, but then what Zen Ginger was saying is I get a YouTube strike and then it's not monetized because I'm using music without permission for me, not you, for me, if that
Oh,
makes
yeah,
sense. So
yeah.
turn it off. That's great.
No, it's
Go ahead.
just one of those things, where you can pick a song, when you make a Facebook reel, that's what
I
it
know.
is.
And all I'm trying to say is from now on, we got to turn that off when we show it on YouTube because then I get a strike. I understand what
Ah,
you're saying, but yeah.
gotcha.
So
Because
just turn it off.
YouTube takes it
Yep.
differently. All
Yep.
right, so here we go. Da-da-da. All right. So let me take it back to beginning. I think I can because it was playing while we were doing. Yeah, so this is Dandy playing on the antlers.
Oh, whoops. Hang on. I messed it up. There we go. Okay,
And
go
so
ahead.
this was something they had at PetSmart. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but they always have, these cute little things. And you can see it's held up pretty well in the salt water. It's been in the bleach bucket. I put them in the bleach bucket at the end of each season. So their stuff generally isn't too bad in salt water. But
And look at him checking it out. He's like, this
yeah,
is
so he's
cool.
hanging on to it. And the thing you have to realize is Dandy is handicapped. He has a hard time sitting up straight
Right.
and swimming and stuff. So it was really cool to see him enjoying this thing and sitting up because he doesn't usually sit up like that. He has a hard time getting around, but he likes his little Christmas things. And
Yeah.
and so yeah, it makes for a cute photo op, when they
Right.
get in this stuff. And like one thing that's similar to this, there's like a Santa face, and they'll cling to it, and I always think it looks like they're sitting on Santa's lap or something.
Yeah. My
And they
favorite
have a
is
Christmas tree, and yeah, he loves his
it's
Christmas
ador
tree too.
it's adorable. And my favorite of yours is the shark head where it looks like they're swimming out of the shark's mouth. I love that one.
Yeah, I got here. Let me find that one. I'm gonna turn this off for a minute
Okay.
so you don't see other stuff on my Facebook, and then I'll find that so other
Okay.
people can see that, because one of the seahorses was in the shark just the other day, maybe even this morning. I can't. It was really recently, and I got some pictures of him, and yeah, it's so cute and funny,
Yep. Find it, show it to us.
and
And
they just love.
I would say Holly is amazing. I have like totally been a pariah on Facebook and all the social media because I'm telling you guys, I'm just swamped. But again, Cora Works, I know, no excuses. I need to post more. Like I get all these cute pictures and videos too, and I just never get around to posting them. I need to. I'm gonna go post happy, and you guys are gonna see a bunch of stuff for me to watch. One night, I'm just gonna start showing it all. But yeah. Let me see. Okay.
All right, so here we go. I found him. So let me go back and start sharing. Hope nobody messages me in the middle because I got people messaging me right now.
I saw that.
But yeah, so
I think that's hilarious. I
so
love it.
yeah, there's Buddy sitting in the shark.
And it looks like he's surviving a shark attack.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not offensive to anybody. I think it's hilarious. I love
Yeah,
it.
no, and they like it. They like sitting in here. I don't see him in here very often, but the girls like to sit in it like all the time. So there's
Well,
a
you think
picture of
like
him.
it's funny to us, but to
Mhm.
them, I mean, Ray, don't you feel like that
They don't
seahorse
know
feels
it's a shark.
protected? Right. No, I feel like they feel like they've got protection, you know? Something's around them that they feel safe in. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just feel
it's
like
just a
maybe.
place to go, and I think it's
Yeah.
kind of like like the saloon door. I think
Hmm.
they feel like they're going somewhere or they're getting somewhere else, you know, when they go
Yep.
in. And then they're just in there and they have to get out. You know, but I think when they go in there, they think they're going somewhere.
Right.
You know, somewhere different. But
Will tell us that, you don't need all of that stuff. Your seahorses will be fine without it for sure. But it's
but
just
I think
fun,
it's interesting to them and it's
Yeah.
interesting to us.
Absolutely.
Now, things like that wouldn't bother me at all. As long as the seahorses are happy, I'm happy.
There you go. See, that's it. That's it right there. And I do want to bring up real quick. Coral Work said, "I wonder how much alkalinity is affected by fading paint." So, you
I
probably
don't know.
don't know. Yeah.
I don't
So
test
Holly,
anymore. I used to test for everything way back, but nothing really ever changed hardly. So eventually I stopped testing and I own because I don't have other stuff. But the seahorse, I don't have to test for what coral is. And the seahorses are hardy as hell when it comes to water stuff,
right.
as far as water chemistry, like Ray says, the dissolved organics, that's another thing. That seems to be their worst enemy. But other
Water
stuff,
quality versus water chemistry. Right.
yeah, the
Absolutely.
other stuff they seem to handle everything.
But I will say
Hmm.
it's an interesting question, especially if you have
Mhm,
new seahorses. And I actually have alkalinity issues in my house. I have
mhm,
smokers, I have windows that don't open. In my
mhm,
reef tank, I had to run a skimmer outside.
mhm,
Run the line outside to get fresh air because
mhm,
when I had seahorse tanks in every room, we would come home and my floor, the humidity is just ridiculous. My floor would be, you'd slip.
mhm,
Like it was
mhm,
ridiculous when I had multiple tanks during certain seasons. So I will volunteer to buy one of these items. I have PetSmart in my area. I'll buy one of these items. I'll test alkalinity before. We're not talking scientific tests here. I'm just going to
mhm.
test alkalinity before, test it in a week, test it in a month, and let you guys know. We'll see what
Can't
happens.
believe that alkalinity would have more effect than cleaning with a bleach.
Right. No, I
Mhm.
know, but I mean, no, but what do you mean?
The bleach does fade stuff. He's talking about affecting the paint fading because, yeah, some stuff, it's interesting because you don't know really until you try it.
Right.
So I've noticed, yeah, on some stuff, the using the bleach will fade some stuff, and some stuff it doesn't.
Right.
But
Rather than
But
use peroxide, maybe.
yeah,
either way, with that, well, I think what Coral Works was saying is
mhm,
if you have a tank that maybe it's not just seahorses, maybe there's other stuff and alkalinity really matters,
mhm,
will an item that says salt water may fade paint, that fading paint, like
mhm,
we had a lot of problems. It's been a minute since I kept a reef, you
mhm,
guys, but I remember I even used those bricks. I can't think of the name now. Somebody help me out in the audience.
mhm.
The Brightwell bricks, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? They were supposed to be amazing. And then you found out they were leaching aluminum or something. I don't remember the story. Don't take my word for it. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm not putting down the product or the
Mhm.
company. I just remember learning that, and I never had any problems. The only problem I ever had with the bricks was, and I never had a problem in my reef tank, but in my
Mhm.
seahorse tank, it ended up crumbling a lot. So like I'd
Mhm.
end up with the bits all over, and that was kind of a
Yeah, yeah,
pain.
yeah.
And I never knew why it was softening and crumbling. It just
Mhm.
was. So just curious. And
Yeah,
but you just those things matter is what I'm saying.
yeah.
Coral Works, yeah, I think the denitrify. I'm talking about the bricks that
Mhm.
were supposed to do both. Right. It was yeah, I think
Mhm.
it was the denitrifying. Anyways, Coral Works said I was thinking more how much the paint would be affected by it. Oh, be affected by it, alkalinity.
Yeah, and see, I
Okay.
wouldn't I mean, most of my stuff I've had for years now. I mean, my tanks are going on 5 years, but I would say nothing really fades in the tanks other than when it goes to the bleach bucket. I
Ah,
think like Ray says, the bleach bucket affects it more than the salt water
gotcha.
because yeah, if and I switch things out. Like I have sometimes I'll have two of a thing so that
Mhm.
one can go the bleach bucket and another thing goes in the tank to take its place. You know, some of the favorite things. And then other things, that come and go or, they get new stuff all the time. But most stuff, a lot of their favorite things I've had for years.
Yep. And I
And I think if it didn't have to go to the bleach bucket, it probably wouldn't fade as
wouldn't
much
fade.
as it has.
Right. And I mean, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. I thought you were asking how it affected alkalinity. You're asking how alkalinity affects it. And I think the basic question is,
Mhm.
how does salt water affect the fading? And so, I don't think the different levels of alkalinity is what he's talking about or asking. It's just salt water versus fresh, right? Because
Mhm.
I do know that I stupidly bought one of those. It's a fake anemone, right? And it
Mhm.
had, I don't know the material off the top of my head, but it was like just those plastic you'd stick in a freshwater tank, this fake anemone, and then the little plastic pieces would float around, right? And look like an
Mhm.
anemone. Really
Mhm.
cute. I put one in the Seahorse tank and it started dissolving. And God
Oh,
knows what that dissolving material was doing to the tank, or
uh-huh.
obviously it was the salt water that was affecting it and dissolving it, right? So I
Mhm.
get the question whether you're going it from one angle or the other. Just how
Mhm.
does salt water affect this product? Is it,
Decorations, yeah.
yeah, decoration? So
I suspect that nowadays with so much salt water hobby around that the manufacturers are making sure that it can be labeled for fresh or salt.
most
Mhm.
now, yes, you're right. You're
Mhm.
absolutely right. Well, the product I just got it at a PetSmart. I'll have
Mhm.
to. Well, I probably don't even have it anymore because, of course, I quit using it.
Mhm.
But I just noticed. I pulled it out one day and I noticed that some of the tips were gone because it was a fake
Oops.
anemone and it was green and
Yeah.
it had pink tips and the pink tips were gone and I'm like, what the hell? And then I kind of pulled it out to clean it and such and it was softening. I don't know how
Like
else to describe it.
slimy.
Yeah, yes. And
Yeah.
it was dissolving is what
Mhm.
yeah, not good. Not good. So now I'm just more careful. But I agree, Ray, most products now will be for both. And as Holly has said, she's had her products for years. They don't, no effect. Cora Works did say,
And my
oh, go
tank
ahead.
is all artificial. I don't have any corals at all. So
Was this
I only
question?
have seahorses, and in one tank, I also have a goby and one crab left that I've had for years.
Yep. And a lot of people do. There are coral that you can keep with seahorses. You
Mhm.
can do, softies. I've had tanks with softies, with macros, with gorgonians, those kinds of things. You just got to stay away from stinging corals. I would never advise somebody to put seahorses in an SPS tank. It looks really pretty, but the thing is, the SPS don't like the seahorses because they'll hitch on them, right, and hurt them.
Mhm.
And you also want to avoid anything that slimes or lets off chemicals. A lot of people used to keep zoas with seahorses, and it's not something I personally advise because those and the polys can, release chemicals. Um, don't know how that hurts the seahorses. I have no idea, but I just would avoid it if it was me. That's just my 2 cents. Um, but yeah, most seahorse tanks are species. The question was, I know some people struggle with elk in mixed tanks. Seahorse tanks are typically species only no coral, and it just depends on what you're trying to do. Really, there
Yeah,
are
because
coral to
some go
avoid.
with them. There's
Yeah.
some that you can keep with them, like the gorgonians, like Zen Ginger was talking about. She wants some gorgonians. And yeah, there's some gorgonians that go well with the seahorses. So you just have to be careful, when you're choosing things for the seahorse tank to find the right things that they're compatible.
The main things when you're looking for things for a seahorse tank is, can this handle the temperature, right? Because when you're
Mhm.
talking about SPS and those things, they need a much higher temperature. Gorgonians, I've kept every gorgonian out there. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know that. But I've kept both
Not a
MPS
lot.
and photosynthetic, and the seahorses love them. And they
Hmm.
look so pretty. I mean, flowing throughout the tank. They're so pretty. I love gorgonians in a seahorse tank. And like I said, macros, I've kept softies, the toadstools and stuff, mushrooms, that kind of stuff that can handle the temperature, the cooler temp. Don't need a ton of light, because if you put a ton of light over a seahorse tank for the coral, you're going to end up with algae, and you're going to end up with algae on the seahorses. Then you're going to want to brush the algae off the seahorses. Then you're going to kill your seahorses. I mean, I shouldn't say it that way, but I've had so many people that came back with skin problems on seahorses because they tried to clean algae off the seahorse. Avoid that at all costs, or deal with it and let them grow the algae on
Or use
themselves,
a soft makeup brush.
There you go. So,
I
well, I just
remember
would
I
say avoid it.
mentioned that one day, and Cheryl told me that she's used paintbrushes. She said, you can use a paintbrush. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, well, how about an eyeshadow brush? There's really
Hmm.
soft eyeshadow brushes. So I got them their own eyeshadow brush for cleaning algae off. I don't do it now, but I did do it once.
Right? And Ray, you said you used Q-tips?
I just use
Yeah.
Q-tips. I don't have any makeup brushes or anything like that around.
Go in with
I
the
thought it
toothbrush,
was
guys.
funny.
No.
I mean, I did it once and never again. I'm like, they're okay with algae.
Yeah.
And they
No.
don't
Right.
they don't really have that much now, really. Compared, there was one time when I think the lighting was different or something, and yeah, there was a time when there was like a seahorse algae outbreak, and I decided to clean them up a little. It was Cheryl that gave me that tip. She said, just get like a soft little paintbrush.
Yeah.
And so I picked up like a cheap makeup brush for them, a little eyeshadow brush.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If your seahorses end up with algae growing on them, it's probably growing in the tank, I guarantee it. And when you fix the problem and it goes away in the tank, it will go away on the seahorses
And
too.
yeah.
And I will tell you, I got to the point when it first happened in my macro tank, because you got to have lighting for macros, right? And they'd
Mhm.
get algae, and I'd be freaking out because they weren't perfect and beautiful anymore. By the time I'd kept seahorses for a while in different species, when I had my 65-gallon, my very first seahorse that I ever raised from a baby, little Cheryl, she was in this tank, and I had gorgonians and I had rock and I had macros, and we had an algae problem for a minute, and she was my green seahorse swimming around, and it was cool. I mean, she was a green
Yeah.
seahorse,
And
and I
she
was
didn't
like,
care.
no, they grow it on themselves to blend in, right? I mean, they're just blending. It's cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother them.
No.
But and Ray said usually not a problem once a tank matures and maintains a better water quality system. Absolutely agree. Cora Works, you did say Zen, just start an Aptasia only tank. I know people have done that. I know. I have a.
My
Holly,
husband
your
had
husband did.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, my
yeah.
husband had one because back when I had rocks, I got some Aptasia and I scooped them out with a Dixie cup, and thank God, and never had the problem since. Somehow I got them all. They were in the substrate, and I scooped them out with a Dixie cup, and I was going to throw them out. And Scott's like, "Wait, I want them for pets." So he set up a little one of those little 1 gallon octagon tank things, a plastic one. He had a little filter on it and everything. And he fed his Aptasia the leftover food that I siphoned out of the Seahorse tank.
Yep.
And he just
My
had it sitting on a table in the living room.
my
And
girlfriend did Aptasia tanks. She did these. I mean, they were cool tanks,
they
to
are
be real.
cool critters when they're not
Yeah,
in your display tank.
right. And I was gonna say though, don't ever
They
add
spread.
anything with Aptasia or that could possibly have Aptasia to a Seahorse tank, because Holly's story is really cool. They were in a substrate. She was able to scoop them out. When
I
they're
was
on rocks, it's just, listen, I know there's 50 people out there that are going to say, oh, just use lemon juice. Oh, just use Joe's juice. Oh, just use Aptasia X. None of that shit worked for me. Every time I tried, I would end up with an explosion because they'd get pissed off when I was trying to get them,
I've
and they'd
always
squirt
heard
their little
that.
seed everywhere. And I had that happen in a Seahorse tank, and it was awful. And I tried everything. And I mean, I even got to the point where I was pulling half the rock out of the tank, and I had it in a container, and I was using the nitrofurazone. Or no, is that what no, I'm sorry. Scratch that. I was using what's the name of the stuff that's for goats? I can't, Pancur. I was
Oh,
using
Panther.
Pancur. Yep, because that was Dan's advice, is to pull the rock, treat it with Pancur, kill all the Aptasia, and then just do little parts of the tank at a time. Well, the problem with that is you add it back to the tank, and then the Aptasia just get back on it, and it wasn't working out. I ended up fixing the problem because I found really good, really hungry peppermint shrimp, the true kind of peppermint
Oh,
shrimp.
yeah.
There are different ways you can deal with Aptasia. There are nudibranchs, there are things like that, but they take longer. You get some really hungry, true peppermint shrimp, and they're going to take care of that problem for you. But everybody's experience is different. That's what worked for me. But I do remember, I'll never forget seeing a seahorse try to grab a piece of mysis that an Aptasia had snatched and was trying to eat. And this seahorse, I say jumped. Obviously, they're in water, they're not jumping. But this
Yeah.
seahorse went to snick the food
Yeah.
and went woo across the tank
Yeah.
and was started doing the coughing and freaking out.
Aw,
She got stung in the face.
poor
She lived,
thing.
but she was an older seahorse, one of my breeders. It was
Aw.
scary. It didn't want to hurt, so Aptasia, no, in a seahorse tank. Stay
No,
away
I
from them.
had one because the way I discovered them to begin with was because I was raising fry. I was raising the babies, and I had sponge filters I was using for them. And one day, before I moved them to the grow out tank, I was looking at one of my juveniles. It had one on its face, like
Mm,
sitting, like it had attached to his or her face. And I freaked out, and I got a tweezer, an eyebrow tweezer, and I was able to get it off.
mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, where did it come from though? Because I hadn't
Right.
seen them ever before anywhere. And finally, I noticed on the sponge filter was full of
Yep.
them.
Yeah.
And then I checked my big tank because originally the sponge filters came from the sump of that tank.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Right.
like, had to have been in here, something happened. And I didn't find any in the sun. I didn't find any anywhere except for there was a clump in the substrate underneath their feeding station.
Yep.
And so I scraped them out with a Dixie cup. Sand and everything. I've got them from underneath and scooped them up in the little cup. And that's when I got two peppermint shrimp
Yep.
right after that. And I never saw them again, ever.
Yeah. Once you get the
After that.
peppermint shrimp,
So
they're wiping them out.
I got lucky, but yeah, I threw away that sponge filter, and gave sorry guys, I didn't
I do
even.
want to mention, because we cater to all sorts on the channel, if you're keeping dwarf seahorses, like if you're keeping the adult larger seahorses, Erectus, Cuda, Barbori, Reedi, Aptasia are a nuisance. They can sting your seahorse and they're going to jump across the tank and they're going to freak out. And if they're, what do we say to avoid with seahorses at all cost? Stress. Okay. That is stressful when they get stung by an Aptasia. So all bad, no good. But if you have dwarf seahorses and you have Aptasia, or fry and you have Aptasia, that's a death sentence. I mean, it really is. So just avoid it at all costs. And Ray, you had said when you tried that, the seahorse hitching spots with loose flesh, what were you talking about?
All the spots on the Gorgonians that they like to hitch on ended up losing the flesh off of them, and you'd end up just seeing the little stem left. And I left it probably too long like that. When I pulled it out and put it in a reef tank, it died off. I managed to save one little stem right near the base of it, and eventually that started growing again. But just the hitching on the Gorgonian, it did the damage to it.
Yeah, that's what I describe when I say what they would do to SPS. But I never had that problem with Gorgonians. What kind did you have? Do you know?
Well, they were all light, none that I had to feed.
Right, they were all photosynthetic. Huh. Well, I
Yeah,
would just
but I don't know.
go ahead.
I don't know the names. Like that's a long time ago.
And if you asked me on the spot right now the names of the Gorgonians I kept, I couldn't tell you either. But I did write it all down. So, like Zen or anybody out there who wants to keep Gorgonians, I can absolutely tell you the species that I kept that were hardy. I did notice that the seahorses preferred the thicker branched ones. Maybe that's something. And the thicker branched ones, I just never had problems. They would close up when the seahorse would get near. Their polyps would retract. Just the seahorse would hitch on it, and then when they would leave, it'd be fine. So that's interesting.
The red one was white flower, right? White flowers.
The red, see, and that makes me wonder, Ray, if you were sold the wrong thing, because the red with white flowers is an NPS. Like
I never fed it.
Well, I mean, it was probably, that's the other thing. The reason people like to keep NPS in a seahorse tank is that they don't need light, and the seahorse tank.
No, but it would come out of my reef tank. That it had been in the reef tank for, I don't know, 8 or 10 years up to this point.
Well, I think sometimes you can get away with NPS because of everything else that the tank is fed, right? So with NPS, yes, you're supposed to feed them like Fido or whatever. But if you have a seahorse tank where you're feeding it constantly, those organics are floating around the tank anyways. In a reef tank, same deal. If you're feeding the tank multiple fish, coral, etc., those Gorgonians are getting what they needed. I don't know, Ray. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying typically when you get photosynthetic Gorgonians, just for anybody out there who's setting up a tank like Zen, they're going to be not the bright colors, but still really pretty. Mine were purple, the light purple, not the dark, deep purple, but the light purple, tan. I had some that were almost like a pale, I can't think of the color. I don't know, like a gray maybe, which avoid those because the seahorses will turn gray. But and I did have a big, huge, beautiful male seahorse that every picture I ever took, he was purple. And it's because he loved his purple Gorgonian. So just a thought. But see, and you said, and Zen said, I want purple. I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. Candelabra gorgs.
Candelabra.
And yes, candelabra. Thank you. Yes, and absolutely. I think that's one of the. I guarantee you that's one of the ones I kept. I'll do some posts. I'm going to try to do some posts this week, and excuse me, post some videos of, I mean, they just love them. They just love them, and they're so pretty in the tank. But, you know, you got to be careful about what you buy for sure, because they, you know, if you get the thinner branched ones, they can be hurt. But I never even had trouble with the whips. I got a lot of whip gorgonians, and the seahorses wouldn't hitch to those because they were too thin to be hitched to. But I did try to keep NPS gorgonians in my original macro tank, and they just, as Ray was just, never did like the seahorses hitching on them. I wasn't specifically, so they weren't getting enough of what they needed. They just never grew and never did well. But another thing with gorgonians is, if you do have a spot that's injured or the seahorse tail has bothered it, most, at least in my experience, you can, now I can't think of the word, when you
do they regenerate?
Cutting up.
They
Yes,
regenerate?
they regenerate. And but what's the word where you're oh my gosh, I can't think of it too. What's it called when you cut a piece of coral and send it to someone else? This is so stupid.
Propagate? Propagation?
It's not propagate, but I just can't think of the word where you cut a piece of it. But you can do that. I mean, that's how I started with kids, is I get them from friends. Huh?
Oh, fragging?
Yes, that's the word. So
Fragging?
I couldn't think of it. But you can frag a gorgonian, right? So maybe if it's injured by the seahorse or something, just cut right beneath that, frag it, and, you know, still try to save that little piece. But maybe that's something you could share with a friend, right? So just thoughts. Yes, fragging. Thank you, guys. I don't know what's wrong with my brain tonight. I'm amazing. When you do set up, I miss my gorgonians. I want to do a tank with gorgonians again, but like with gorgonians, that's when you get into you don't need, but you need light, right? And the two seahorse tanks, one has no light at all, and one has just a cheap, you know, black box. So I did, when I first set up the all-in-one, I wanted to put stuff in it, but I had a cheap light, and the things I put in it just did not work out. So I kind of gave up on that. So I can't wait to see your tank, is my point. But yeah. All right. Anything else, you guys? We're hitting 9:30. I'm trying to make these Wine Wednesdays a little shorter. But if anybody has any questions, ask them. We'll also be back next week. But I appreciate you sharing your cool decorations, Holly. I'll probably copy some because I just think they're cool.
Yeah, so check out PetSmart. They have a bunch of fun stuff for
and I'll
seahorses.
do that.
Petco and PetSmart do.
Works wasn't actually asking me to do the alkalinity test, but now that I brought it up, I will follow through and do it. And I will also
tested that since I had coral years ago. I really haven't tested alkalinity, I don't think, in close to 5 years.
Right.
I have no clue.
No, I hear you. I test my alkalinity just because of my house, right? And I don't do it all the time, but I have the tests, so there's no reason I can't get a decoration and just kind of play with it and see what I come up with. And then, Ginger, you said it'll also depend on who that you trust has what in stock when you do go to do it. Absolutely. I did work with, now I'm not even going to remember that. They're not in business anymore anyways. But they were actually, I was buying gorgonians and macros and such that were not aquacultured. And so I had to be super careful. I quarantined and all that stuff. Now it's a lot easier because you can buy aquacultured, clean macros and gorgonians. So hopefully you will have a much easier time. When you do, definitely share your sources because, like I said, it's been a minute for me. And Ray, you said you've never had a serious light on any reef or seahorse tank. You made all of yours.
I've never ever had a purchased light system for any tank.
Wow.
Fresh water, salt water, or whatever.
So in your reef,
go
ahead.
Well, people told me I couldn't keep a reef the way I was keeping it. I built hoods on it, and I'd put on my 90-gallon tanks, I would have 8 40-watt fluorescent tubes in there. Four of them would be a GE Daylight Ultra, and four would be the Actinics. Pardon me. And then I'm trying to think of the name of the ballast that I was using. Ice Cap. Ice Cap was an old electronic ballast back then, and it would overdrive these probably 50-60%. And then if I used the same hoods over the 75s and the 60, I could still have 8 light tubes in it, but I would just use the normal fluorescent ballast on it, and they worked fine.
Wow. So I'm
And of
curious.
course, when it came to Seahorse tanks, I just took LED bulbs that I'd purchased and I dismantled them. They were corncob bulbs, and I would dismantle them and then lay out an arrangement that was suitable for whatever I wanted to use it for.
Well, I can say I used
That's
grow lights on my refugium, but again, here guys, I'm not a DIY person. If you are a DIY person, I will actually say I have
I have a shop
I have
light.
what? What are you showing us,
I
Holly?
don't know
Wait,
if
show us
you
again.
can. I don't know if you can see because the camera's on my computer. I said this tank has a shop light, and it's got a black light like you use for posters and stuff for nighttime.
I love it. And I would say I'm being dead serious here. I have all this equipment here that I don't use. If anybody out there is a DIY person, I have like I don't know what I have to be honest, but I've been given and acquired over the years lots of shop lights. I have a big old light in my basement that I bet Ray could do something amazing with. So if you're that type of person, I'll just give it to you because I'm not going to ever do it. I'm more I'd rather pay the money and not have to deal with it.
Yeah,
But if
I
you're the
have
type
to
of
say
person,
I like my actual aquarium lights that I got off of Amazon, the ones that have the remote control with all the colors and stuff.
yeah.
I love that light. That's my
Well,
favorite.
for the record, those lights are horrible for if you're trying to do gorgonians or macros. Okay. If you're trying to do gorgonians, macros, coral, you've got to get the light they need,
Yeah,
right?
the
It's all
right
about
spectrum.
spectrum.
Mhm. Uh-oh, I think you got
You close
frozen.
up. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night. I've got 5.5 pounds of meat in the dehydrator that I got to get packed up, put in the freezer tonight before I go to bed.
Ah,
Okay. That's all right. I actually, for some reason, I just lost connection. Apparently, I was gone for a minute and didn't know it. I kept talking.
yeah, you froze up.
Whoops. Whoops. Well, I'm sure what I was saying wasn't that important. Just make sure your lighting is good for whatever you've got in your tank was
Yeah.
my point. And with that, Ray's got to go. I've got to work tomorrow anyways. Holly's got work tomorrow anyways. And we're always here. Wait, there was one more question. Sorry. And Ray, if you have to go, go ahead. But any of the reef tanks ever buy anything from Tidal Gardens? I have.
Never heard of them.
Exactly who Tidal Gardens is. I have bought from them for my reef tank. Never for my, obviously never for my Seahorse tank. But I was very happy with Tidal Gardens. Quality. Uh, what were your thoughts and opinions? Don't know. But Ray had to go, and I'm sorry to cut it off right after the Tidal Garden question because he's amazing. They're amazing. But I'm curious to know why you were asking, if you were just asking for fun, Zen Ginger, or if there was something you're looking at. I am going to end the stream for tonight, so maybe you have to tell me next week if I don't see the post pop up quickly. But we will be back next week, and we will stay for any questions, like I just showed you. So tell your friends, that if they're interested in seahorses or just in a fun community to hang out with us, drinking wine, right? Or coffee or whatever. Tell them about Wine Wednesday so we can grow the viewership. If we have a bigger viewership, I'm going to feel even more dedicated into putting more time into, making things happen for the channel. I love our channel. I love us just getting together. I'm cool with it being just this forever. But as things grow, I do, then we can have more people in and things like that. Either way, so excited for Zen Ginger Seahorse Tank. And Holly, I appreciate you sharing all of your tidbits every week too. I really do. But for tonight, let's say Happy Wine Wednesday, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.